Hello and welcome to the Starting Pixel podcast, an actor and VP supervisor's guide to the next gen tech in film, TV, video, and social content. I'm Rob Chandler, but unfortunately, Michel Bonnard, my co-host, can't make it today, which is a bit of a shame. So normally at this stage, we would talk about things we've been up to in the past week, but Michelle isn't around, unfortunately. So we're going to have to save it till next week. So on with the podcast. Today, I'm joined by Zoltan Batho. I hope that's how you pronounce it. I'm British, an award-winning producer whose passion for CGI, VR, AR, XR, and animation has driven him to the cutting edge of virtual production. Zoltan previously led innovation projects at Digic Pictures and now focuses on digital R&D within Breda University, blending virtual production with big data, geodata, and AI. His forward-thinking approach has made him the ideal guest to discuss next-gen film tech skills in higher education. Let's dive in. First of all, welcome.
Thank you, Rob. It's a pleasure being here.
So I rewrote that last sentence, and it's still a mouthful because I was trying to get across. Really, I think one of the challenges, and we'll talk about that in part two anyway, about sort of this huge big convergence of technology. So first of all, thank you again, welcome. What we normally do is sort of part one is just talk a little bit about you and sort of where you're from, maybe a bit of your journey. And how you sort of ended up being at Breda University doing cool stuff.
Yeah, it was a journey, to be honest. But let's get started. Originally, I was born in Hungary, Budapest, still in the communist era. So I had the opportunity to experience a different sort of social setup. And I was about 12 or 13 years old when that changed to capitalism, and I had all the opportunities in the world all of a sudden. So instead of learning Russian, I finally ended up learning English, which was really amazing. And then I also had the opportunity to study abroad, study in the UK at Oxford Brookes University. So I actually did my bachelor there in Budapest and in Oxford, and I also did my internship abroad in the US in Boston. But actually, I originally wanted to become a foreign trade specialist. Originally, I got my BA in economics.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that was the plan, to work in multinational companies and, trading, because my family had a bit of a background in trading. And then I ended up working for one of the biggest sports manufacturing companies, Decathlon. Basically, they were trying to set up their first Hungarian store. And so I trained for that in Marseille, and then ended up setting up the first Hungarian Decathlon in Budapest, and working there as an operation manager around 60 to 70 hours per week.
Wow.
That was not really nice, to be honest, but I sort of enjoyed it until I enjoyed it until I almost got a bit of a burnout. But just before that, I actually went to Egypt for a yoga retreat, and I met an interesting guy who actually set up his own company, which was about 3D outsourcing, and that's where we are getting closer to today, right? And I didn't really know much about 3D, to be honest. I was a player. I was a gamer, basically. But I wasn't really interested in creating 3D arts and stuff like that. But I became the principal producer and business developer of that small company. And it was just the perfect timing, because when I joined, we were 12, and 2 or 3 years later, we ended up having more than 150 artists in-house. Yeah.
And whenabouts was this?
That was in 2006. 2005 and 2006. So the business was going absolutely amazing. We were working with clients like Ubisoft, Activision, Electronic Arts, and basically just doing 3D art outsourcing, characters, sets, you name it.
In Hungary?
In Hungary.
In Hungary. Got you.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, because at that time, still the mandate rate in Hungary was really low, I can tell you. But the quality was absolutely amazing. So we had really great clients, and they were all happy. And also the cultural difference was not that huge between sort of like Western European companies and basically 3D Brigade. It was called 3D. But then something happened in 2008. I'm pretty sure some of you know it. A
Well,
small economic crisis.
right.
So not that small. It was actually quite big. Just within a few weeks, we lost all the contracts basically. So all the companies decided to just like completely shut down the outsourcing divisions, and then we had like more than 150 people in the company without any contracts. So that wasn't nice. So the company had to be done, and I was trying to find my next sort of like steps, and I went back to sales, business development. I was also managing my own company, but those companies were not really connected to digital and CG. And I didn't really enjoy my time in those years. I mean, I was doing great in terms of like sales and business development, but I wasn't enjoying what I was doing. So just before getting to a point of having another burnout, I decided to just like clean my mind, and ended up spending half year in Southeast Asia, backpacking, visiting Thailand, Cambodia, all these absolutely beautiful places. And then the last destination was Australia, Sydney. After spending 2 years in Sydney, I was like, I have to come back to this place and maybe even live here a little bit. So I went back to Hungary, sold my car, sold my house, and decided to move to Sydney. And I did 2 masters there, a Master of Business
Wow.
Administration and Master of Professional Accounting. Don't ask me. And basically, while I was doing 2 masters, I was also trying to get back into the digital industry. And fortunately, I found a digital agency who was looking for a digital producer. So I was like, yeah, let's see what I can do.
So this
Yeah,
is 2012,
2013, 13,
13.
14. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got you.
Exactly. And so yeah, that's how I got back into business. Like in the beginning, I was mainly managing web applications, mobile applications, but then another digital agency hired me where they were doing lots of CG, VFX. And also they were trying to do some sort of like configurators, real-time configurators for Toyota, for the showrooms.
So
Yeah.
so explain what a real-time configurator is. I've
Yeah.
sort of got it in my head, but explain it to the audience a bit.
No, that's actually a very good question. So basically, when you have a store like a Toyota dealership, right? You can't have all the cars in the dealership. Like you can't have all the colors, you can't have all the models. You have to somehow still show the client what the differences are. So instead of just showing them a brochure, which is not really, Toyota decided to create a real-time configurator, which is basically a game, an Unreal Engine game, run on a big screen, on a big touch screen. And basically with that game, you can actually configure all the cars in every color with all the different options, everything.
So it's like, was it touch screen?
Touch screen,
So it's a
exactly.
big screen. You
Yeah,
touch it, and you go, okay, well, I want blue, and I
exactly.
want it 2 doors, and I want it
Exactly.
this. Got you. Right. And was that
Yeah,
globally, or was it just for Hungary?
no, that was actually for Australia. I was already
Australia. Okay.
in Australia. So that was for the Australian Toyota. And they were the first one in the world who actually set that up. And the company called Rotor Studios got quite a few awards of that particular product. It was absolutely fantastic. The dealers loved that because it really helped them to upsell to the client. Really like, hey, do you want to put some, ski racks on the top of the car? Oh yeah,
Right.
well, that looks great.
Yeah.
How about in, I don't know, speed blue? Those color names are amazing. So the backbone of the whole configurator was Unreal Engine. And that's how I got in touch with Unreal Engine. Slowly but steadily, we've been doing more and more works with Unreal Engine. And then when the augmented reality, virtual reality sort of like excitement happened in about 2015, yeah, I would say 16, companies started to reach out to us saying like, hey guys, can you do some augmented reality, virtual reality stuff?
So just again for the audience, explain a bit of what augmented reality and virtual reality is.
Oh my God.
Right.
That's, yeah, right. Okay. So basically, virtual reality, you have to have some sort of like a headset, and basically, you're going to see a virtual world through the headset.
So this is like a Quest or a headset or a
Exactly.
PS5 or the Apple one so that
Yeah,
kind of
the
thing, right? You put
provision, exactly.
Provision,
But the
right?
main thing behind virtual reality is that you don't see the real world. You only see the digital
Right.
world. So
Got you.
that's how you can see some funny videos of people wearing those headsets
Right.
and just like crashing into the wall because they have no idea what's around them.
I
So
have been
yeah,
that person. Right.
right, okay.
Yeah, I have been that person.
I think we've all been there.
Right. So that's virtual reality.
That's virtual reality. Augmented reality, on the other hand, is that you see the real world and you
Right.
see an additional digital layer over the real world.
Right.
That
Okay.
in these days we still have to use mobile phones or tablets. There are a few eyeglasses already, but they are still in relatively early days.
Got you.
But I would say that within a few years, within like 3, 4 more years, augmented reality will go through an absolutely amazing sort of like advancement as the technology becomes better and better.
So I was just when you were talking about, I was trying to think of something that everyone might have experienced.
Pokemon Go,
And
augmented
literally,
reality.
and I was about to say that was the thing that you sort of still need to have done it now, and that must have been 7 years ago,
Exactly,
something like
something
that,
around that. Yeah,
which seems to have
something
gone
like
really,
that.
really quickly. But that was sort of, so anyone who doesn't know what Pokemon Go is, it was an app, right, and you would go around a city typically, and then you'd be holding it up, and you'd have the Pokemon creatures sort of standing on the street corner or something like that. And
Yeah.
is it right? You could click on them, and then it would tell you a little bit of history about the space, if
Yeah,
I sort of vaguely remember.
that was also part of the experience, but the
Experience,
main
wasn't it? Yeah.
idea was that like when you
You had to
saw that creature, you had to
flick them. You had to
you had
shoot.
to
That's
shoot a
right.
ball,
Right.
and
That's
then you had
right.
to catch them, and then if it was like a
Right.
really rare, so like Pokemon, then you were really happy and
Right.
stuff like
Yes.
that.
But you sort of had to be you sort of had to be into Pokemon, or you had to be into just going, I've got to see what this looks like, which is sort of
Yeah.
where I mean, I wasn't into Pokemon, but it was like, oh yeah, that's really good. But then I was trying to think of in the UK, we have quite a famous television program called Strictly Come Dancing, or
Hmm.
Strictly Ballroom, or something like that. So this is not that expensive. And I think and I don't think I've ever seen it, but I know that they do an augmented
Yeah, they
reality
do.
episode once or twice a series where you might have dancing zombies when it was like the Halloween one, or I think there was a famous elephant, if I remember right. I can't remember what it was now, but that's the other one, right? That's sort of in my head is like those are the two things that really sort of jump out as augmented reality.
Absolutely, and we see more and more of the second ones on
Right.
television and broadcast. So that's actually a great use case, and it is actually connected to virtual production a lot.
And I get, yeah, that one is right. And the other one I guess is in your car when you've got the extra, which is
Hmm.
the in display on your windscreen.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
is that
In a
sort of
way,
is
yes.
sort
That's
of
like a
right.
simplified form of augmented
Cool. I
reality.
like there you
Exactly,
go.
because
That helps with
you're
me.
basically just like using just using the front glass as
Right.
a device, but
Right.
it's just reflection. So
Right.
that's a bit more simpler version of augmented reality, but it is.
Cool. But it's sort of
That's right.
sort of thing. Cool. Okay. Sorry. So just to digress there, just so okay, that makes all sense.
A
Right. Right.
good point. Yeah,
So
we tend to think that these technical terms are pretty obvious, right? But they are not.
right. Right. When you live in the world,
Yeah, exactly.
you live and breathe acronyms, especially when you live in a technical world. For this world of converging technologies coming into the film, TV, it doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything to them. So yeah, the company you work with did the Toyota thing, and
Yeah,
then they got interested in other
AR,
people kept
VR.
on reaching out to you.
Yeah, augmented reality, virtual reality, and there was no one at the company who actually understood and wanted to manage AR and VR projects. And I loved new tech. I was like, yeah, I can try. Let's see how it goes. So that's how I sort of like became a professional AR VR producer
Right.
at this company. And since then, I was just like I just kept doing that because I really love it. Like I really love the fact that it's not just an experience on a wheel, right? But it's actually immersive. It's interactive. It can be immersive, interactive. It's more connected to just like living a digital life, digital experience rather than just like watching a movie. Yeah, and then I was doing quite well there. I wasn't planning to move back to the good old continent, but then again something happened, right? Some small thing called COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you remember that?
Yeah, vaguely.
Vaguely, right? Right at that time, I was working on a project for the Dubai World Expo,
Okay.
and that expo didn't happen, right, because of COVID. So I found myself in the middle of nothing, basically no projects, nothing, and I was like, okay, this is not going well, and I also like I shouldn't be in Australia when all my family members are still in Hungary. I don't know what this whole thing is about. I should be with them. So I decided to move back to the good old continent, to Hungary, to stay with my parents and be closer to them. As I, by that, okay, that one funny story. Just before moving back to Hungary, actually on the day when I was flying back to Hungary, I got an invitation to a virtual production showcase event. And I'm
Right.
like, okay, so my flight is at 8 p.m. The event is at 12 noon. Yeah, I can make it. So I went to the studio. I had a look at this beautiful LED volume, had a look at the real time scene they put up, and I was like, I want this. I want to work in this field. So that's how my journey in virtual production started. Fortunately, the stars were aligned because when I moved back to Hungary after a few months, when I was like trying to figure out my next best move, I ended up talking to one of my good old friends at the Digic Pictures, and they were like, yeah, so we actually have a real-time division within Digic Pictures. It's called Digic Studios, and as far as I know, they want to get into virtual production. And I'm like, that's interesting. I should definitely try to see those guys and maybe work for them. And that's exactly what happened. I had a very nice chat with the founder of the company, Alex, and he was like, yeah, let's do this. I definitely want to get into virtual production, so you could potentially set up the business, the virtual production business unit within Digic. I'm like, sure, let's do that. So that was in 2020, yeah, 2020. And that's exactly what happened. I ended up working for Digic Studios, which is the real-time division of Digic Pictures, and I've been producing lots of real-time cinematics, mainly done with Unreal Engine, obviously. And then I was also setting up sort of like the foundation of the virtual production division within Digic Studios, and we've been doing quite a few tests. We didn't have our own volume, unfortunately, but we had great connections to the famous Hungarian studios, which were doing quite well in those days. And we had the opportunity to work with Origo, Astra, and all the other major studios. And I'm not sure if you know that, but the Hungarian movie industry is the second biggest one in Europe after the UK.
Wow. Okay.
Business is really booming. Lately, you were not able to find free or empty studios at all for months. So that was a great opportunity for us to actually see if we could potentially get into a project and propose our 3D services and virtual production services to productions. And that's exactly what happened. After 1.5 years, I managed to secure a virtual production project with Sony. It was called Knights of the Zodiac, and we ended up working on that project. We've set up quite a few virtual production scenes for the LED volume, interactive scenes, immersive ones. It was a great little project. It was still in 427, Unreal 427, so we were struggling a lot. Yeah. But that's how we learned
Right.
the whole
Been there.
skills. Yeah, you've been there, right?
Been there.
And so that was really, really exciting and absolutely fantastic. And just last year, 3 years ago, or was it 2 or 3 years ago, while I was setting up the virtual production division within the company, I was looking for conferences about virtual production. And then I found a conference called Virtual Productions Gathering in a small city in the Netherlands, Breda, never heard of that. But I thought, yeah, let's see. Like I really want to get into virtual production in Europe. Let's see what that is. And I visited this nice little conference. I met some absolutely amazing people, at Breda University of Applied Sciences, where the conference was happening. And we stayed in touch with them. We ended up working on EU-funded projects together with Digic Pictures and Breda. So it was going great. And then just last year, after having a nice discussion with Carlos Santos here at Breda, we came into the conclusion that potentially I could join the team here. And that's what happened last June. Yeah, last June, I actually moved to the Netherlands, and now I'm in Breda. And funnily enough, I am organizing the virtual productions gathering for this year. Life is the best screenwriter, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna take you back a bit. Actually, I've got some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite easy to forget actually COVID that it happened, but it's also one of the other things. Certainly, being British, it's easy to forget that in our lifetime, there was this thing called an iron wall between the east and west of Europe, which is quite weird when you start trying to remember back and actually remembering that, of course, you couldn't go to Hungary, not unless you had sort of, you just couldn't do it. And Hungarians couldn't come into the West. It just wasn't, for no particular reason. When you sort of think back at it, it's like, doctrines.
We could
and all that
only
kind of
travel to Western Europe once every 3 years.
Right. Right. But anyway, that came down. So, and then I remembered actually when you were talking that, Eastern Europe was the not the brain drain, but it was the offshoring. That's where you offshored a lot of work to, because actually, and you touched upon it, you were really good at it, and it was cost effective as well. Was there a process that went from suddenly the iron wall, coming down, and then this skills, being acquired so rapidly, or was they there before?
That's an interesting question. So it really depends on the industry. So, for example, the animation industry, even during the communist era, Hungary was really great in creating absolutely fantastic and beautiful animations, like hand-drawn animation. There was like a major government-owned company. Well, it wasn't a company; it was owned by the government, but sort of department, the Hungarian Animation Institute, and they were working a lot with France. So the Hungarian artists were absolutely fantastic and very cheap, obviously, at that time. And so when the wall came down, we immediately had great talents in the CG or animation industry. The problem was language, because up until the wall came down, sort of like official second language in Hungary was Russian. So no one could actually learn English officially up until 1989. A bit earlier, I think. I think around like 1986, you could actually decide whether you wanted to learn Russian or English, or maybe it was a bit later anyway. But the fact was that, like, right after the wall came down, even though we had great artists, but we didn't have good artists speaking good English. So it took a few years because those people could actually catch up and learn English properly. And that's after a few years, basically you could see that, there's like a huge intake of projects which were coming from anywhere from Western Europe or from the US, and that's when the whole animation industry and CG industry started to pick up really fast space.
Right. Oh, interesting. What about the film industry in Hungary?
Very similar. Similar. So even before the change of the regime, the Hungarian film industry was pretty good in terms of quality of production, quality of skill sets. We had absolutely amazing, DOPs and directors. Again, the problem was that they couldn't leave the country. They couldn't travel to Western Europe. We didn't have the equipment. That was a major issue, because it wasn't just about not letting people to travel to other countries. Equipment, new technologies couldn't come to the country either. There was like so-called COCOM list. So basically, whatever was on the COCOM list couldn't enter the country because it was considered, like right up. So again, it took the Hungarian movie industry quite a few years to get used to the equipments coming from the West. But I think that's one of the reasons why the Hungarian movie industry became the second biggest in continental Europe. I mean, in Europe, because we already had very good, talented, skilled artists and professionals. They just had to make sure that they understand the equipment. We had to make sure that they know English again, they speak English. And now, whoever I talk to, who did a project or a film in Hungary, most of the times they're like, yep, people are great here. Professionals are really amazing. English is great again. Prices are still relatively inexpensive. I wouldn't say cheap anymore, to be honest. And to be fair, that's great because
Right. Yeah,
you
for sure.
I mean, it's not good for anyone if you are paying like half of the price in Hungary than in the UK. It's not good for the UK. It's not good for the Hungarian.
No, it's a false economy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Basically, because it sets expectations of stuff is, and then budgets, you can go on for economics wise. It's not smart.
I'm an economist, so I really have a good understanding how this works.
Right, it's just not good. Cool, that's really interesting. I'll tell you what, we're going to go for a break now. This episode is brought to you by Morden Wolf. Not sure where to start? How big a stage do you actually need? What about driving plates? Do you even need them? Is Unreal Engine necessary? Wait, what is Unreal Engine? You're thinking about virtual location scouting, but should you? How much is this all going to cost? And the big one, am I about to wreck my career by going the virtual production route? Yeah, there's lots of questions, and guessing your way through virtual production isn't the answer. That's where Morden Wolf comes in. We're an independent virtual production supervision studio, here to guide you from cradle to grave, whether you're just dipping your toes into VP or knee-deep in LED walls and camera tracking. We make sure you get exactly what you need. No overspending, no mishaps, just the right solution for your production. So if you need someone in your corner, choose Morden Wolf. Visit mordenwolf.com to find out more. Morden Wolf, why film it any other way? Hey, welcome back. So tell us a little bit about what you are up to at Breda, why you're there, what are you doing?
Why? What are you doing?
So what are you actually doing? Why are they employing you?
Yeah, no, that's again a very interesting question because I get these questions. I get this question quite a lot of the times because moving from the industry, moving from a award-winning CG animation company like Digic Pictures to a university, like it's not an obvious reason, right? One of the reasons why I decided to move to education was first of all the people. Like as I already visited Breda quite a few times and met all the people here and really saw the opportunities what this university has, I thought that, I definitely want to be part of that because basically just I think like 4 years ago when this whole virtual production, with the Mandalorian stuff came up, the university actually decided to get into this field slowly but steadily. They actually managed to set up their own virtual, LED volume on site at campus, which was an absolutely fantastic thing because it's a heavy investment.
Traditionally, film schools teach the craft, right? And yes, you've got you'll get new cameras and you're going to get new this and that, but it's very much about teaching the craft. Whereas an LED wall or the technologies or this convergence of technologies with gaming technology and AR and XR and all the other Rs in there, it's not, right? It's a thing. It's a sort of a technology. What's the rationale?
Well, the rationale is basically the academy where I'm working at the moment. It's called Academy of AI, Games and Media. We, like BUAS, has an absolutely fantastic gaming academy. It's actually one of the best one in the world. We are golden educational partners of Epic. Seriously, like all the games and all the digital projects, what the students are doing here is absolutely amazing. Like it's mind blowing. And then we have what you just mentioned, R&D lab here. It's called Cradle, and that's where I'm actually working as a producer. So we have this, R&D lab. We have the students from the media and from the games. So it was basically a match made in heaven. Still, it was quite difficult to rationalize why why we would need to spend quite a few hundred thousands of euro for a volume without being a film academy, because we are not a film academy. But fortunately, the board of the university is really progressive. We actually understood, or we managed to, Carlos, our leader at that time, managed to explain why this would be a smart move for the future, not for the present, because at that time it was still quite unknown whether this would become like a major thing or not. But his vision was pretty clear, and he was able to explain why this would be a smart move for the university. And right so, because now Breda is basically, BUAS is one of the universities where all the other universities are coming to see what we did here, how we actually set up the volume, what kind of personnel do we need to operate it, how do we teach those students to be able to operate an LED volume, because it's not evident, it's not easy. Even if you have a really talented programmers or artists or technical person, setting up and managing and operating an LED volume, it's a whole different world. Usually it's not a jack of all trade guy, but you sort of have to become a jack of all trades.
Well, it's sort of it's the challenge is that it's an expert of all trades.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I know a bit about Unreal Engine. I know a bit about network infrastructure. I know the sort of you need to know a lot
really
about
need
it.
to know it.
All of it.
Otherwise, it's gonna be a really expensive mistake. So that's how we ended up building. I think I'm not sure if it was the first one in Europe, but definitely among the first ones in Europe. And since then, we've been doing quite a few R&D projects in the studio. As I already mentioned, we're also organizing this our annual gathering, virtual production gathering, which is absolutely fantastic, because we can have all the best professionals around the world to come here rather than us visiting other conferences.
Smart.
So it's actually a perfect place for me to be a producer, because I can still work with real-time technologies. We have quite a few projects in-house about virtual humans. We have our own scanning facility, the LED studio I have already mentioned, and basically we have all the gears and techs to some proper research and make sure that we are leading the pack rather than just following it.
You spoke about the vision. Maybe just talk a little bit about sort of how you talked about you got a world-class gaming production course.
Mm-hmm.
Is there filmmaking as well, or is it really more to do with the gaming side of things?
No, there's filmmaking as well. Mainly, so not filmmaking in a what do you call it, long format, but it's more like creating ads or short films or creative projects than full feature films. Full feature, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, so we are not really about full feature films. We are more about creativity, making sure that whatever we do, it's connected to creativity. Let it be an animation or a short film or an ad for a company. We call it creative business, basically.
Okay, so are there courses at Breda for cinematography or for the traditional film courses there that run in?
Not that much
as well.
Not that much. So that's not our specialty, but that's why we have quite a few interns coming from other universities who already have that knowledge, and then we can join forces and make sure that we have the gear, we have the knowledge, we have the science behind, because this is a applied sciences university. Yeah.
That makes a lot more sense, because I think one of the challenges that I've heard from traditional film schools is this craft thing, right? It's like there is this crafting that they teach an undergraduate course 3 or 4 years about, the craft of creating films, script writing, editing, directing, virtual production, AR, VR. Those are sort of delivery methods which you wouldn't necessarily teach. Where are people going to get, I suppose, find employment and find jobs?
Okay, so first of all, what we're trying to do here is to really make sure that whoever takes a course here is going to be prepared for the industry as much as possible. Which means that we actually, I mean, most of the courses don't have like traditional classes. Most of the time, the students are working in teams on projects, and basically we are not like teaching them, different softwares or I don't know, like ideas in classes, but we have sort of like supervisors. We give usually a task to the teams, and then we just basically help them through the whole journey of creating something from nothing. I think that already helps because that's exactly how the industry works, right? Like you get a brief and then you just have to produce it. And then you have to make sure that you understand the brief, you have enough knowledge of it, and you know the client. And in actually certain cases, we actually work for clients as well. Like we have basically clients providing us the brief. I mean, for the teams. So that's one thing. The other one is that we actually just recently added AI, obviously, to the academy's name. So before that,
Obviously.
obviously, it was Game and Media, AGM, Academy of Game and Media, AGM, yeah. And now we have Academy of AI, Games and Media. And to be honest, even though it sounds like fishy, like, yeah, sure, you just added AI to the whole thing because it has to be added, right? But it actually made a ton of sense, because now, as we do have all the gears, we do have all the creative students, we do have all the developers in-house at the R&D lab at BUAS, at Cradle. It just makes a perfect sense to just let these people work together on different projects and make sure that they are not working in silos, because that's what usually happens. Like you have different academies and they just work on their own and they don't know what the others were doing, and then you end up just like doubling up on the same thing. Here at Cradle and BUAS, we try to be as sort of like open and as interdisciplinary as possible, and that really helps. We get quite a few EU funded projects. We are quite good at writing proposals for EU projects, and funnily enough, we do a great job at the end.
Yeah.
So it's not just like a university spending money, but actually a university spending money on absolutely state-of-the-art end results.
You use the phrase there, that sort of interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
When I look at the film world and the traditional way of doing things, is that that it's been very linear pipeline for years and years, and they've sort of had two or three disruptions, right? Color, audio, videotape, and digital sort of spring to mind. I'm sure there are some more. The components have always been refined. Cameras have got better and lenses have got better. A lot of technologies that traditionally wouldn't be in that pipeline has started to converge into it. Like AI and like LED walls and virtual production. I think that's one of the bigger challenges more than anything else, is the traditional departments now having to take on and understand those other disciplines.
Absolutely. And I tell you one other thing which is really important in this case, basically industry partnerships. Because
Right.
If we just like sit in our nice nice campus without knowing what's happening outside, we wouldn't be able to achieve anything. And I guess that's one of the reasons why, one of the main reasons why I was attracted, or why I was sort of like hired here at BUAS, because I do have quite an extensive industry partnership network. So now I'm doing a lot in this field. I'm trying to make sure that the industry knows what we are doing. We can actually help them because we have master students, we have PhD students, we have interns who could just like jump on a project or jump on a research and development project and do some great researches, not for free, but basically the knowledge what would come out of such a collaboration between companies and the university is gonna be disseminated to everyone, which is a great win for not just the industry but also for the educational. Like color is one of the key things where we got lots of interest in terms of like coming here, testing color, making sure that the color spaces are correct, seeing what makes a big difference from the camera's point of view, etc., etc. Because we have the studio available here for not for commercial purposes. We are usually not giving the studio for producing ads or something like that, because that would be a bit strange. But definitely collaborating with studios and industry partners on researching and making sure that we are improving the tools and the approaches and the skills.
Cool, yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to ask you the standard 3 questions that I ask every guest. All right, so question number 1: in as fewer words as possible, explain virtual production.
This is you can't really prepare for this question, to be honest. The more you think of it, it's the worse.
Right.
Yeah, so virtual production I would say, is basically a suite of technologies which can help creative people to express their vision in a digital format.
Brilliant. Love it. No, that's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. The second one is, can you remember that light bulb aha moment where you looked at it and you went, this is going to be a thing?
So that was exactly the showcase event in Sydney, just before coming back to
got you.
To Budapest. I was already working in the digital space for quite a few years. I was doing quite a few virtual reality, augmented reality projects. So I was like, yeah, this is cool. I love it, etc. But when I actually entered that studio with the LED volume, with the camera, and then when they moved the camera, and then I saw the change of the perspective, I'm like, wow, this is absolutely fantastic. So for me, that was the big aha moment.
Brilliant. Okay, so that sounds cool, and I think that's it is one of those strange things. You can talk about this stuff forever, and tell people how they could. And I've said it in a previous podcast. It's the glee that you see in people's eyes when they have that first time that they ever see that camera move, and the perspective changes, and they're looking at the monitor, and then they're sort of looking, and whether that's in a green screen or an LED wall doesn't sort of, it's a technical choice normally 9 times out of 10. But yeah, I mean, it's literally, it's like, looking at an 8-year-old coming down at Christmas morning kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right. So the last question is, what do you think, or what have you come across as the biggest misconception?
Yeah, so when I was setting up the virtual production business unit at Digic, and I was talking to quite a few people, trying to convince them that, we are capable of creating, digital backgrounds and also potentially virtual reality location scoutings and stuff like that. And then 90% of the time they were like, virtual production, so that's the big LED volume, right? Or the big LED wall, not even volume, because the volume is like a special term. The big LED wall, right? And I always had to explain, most of the time, that no, that's actually just a very shiny part of virtual production, but actually not the most important one. I wouldn't even say it's the most important one, to be fair. So that's, I think, the biggest misconception at the moment, that virtual production equals LED walls. It's not. It's definitely not. There's actually, I would say that, for example, pre-visualization is a much more important part of virtual production than LED volumes or LED volume type works.
I totally agree. And however, people need to sometimes attach something to something, because it's a really easy concept to get. Virtual production, big LED wall.
And it looks great. It's fancy, right? It's just like, it's really a shiny toy. It looks great. Yeah.
It's like going into a Toyota showroom in Australia back in the thousands, right? And then pushing buttons, right?
Absolutely.
Right,
everyone loved that.
We're going to go to a break. Oh, hello. It's a bit quiet in here without an ad, but it doesn't have to be. Maybe you want to reach filmmakers, producers, and creatives who are all about the latest innovations in film, TV, advertising, corporate content, or social media. Got a game-changing tool that saves time and money? A virtual production studio that no one's heard of, but hey, you've got free snacks. Or maybe you just want to remind everyone that you're the best brand out there. Well, this silence, it could be yours. Get in touch at startingpixel.com and let's fill this space with something a little bit more exciting. The Starting Pixel podcast. Why film it any other way? Welcome back. Through the lens of your world at the moment, there's the industry partners, there are course directors who are either thinking about the virtual production and how to bring it all together, because they might have gaming courses as well as filmmaking courses, as well as the students as well. Right? But what is it? What should they think about? What should they care about? Why do you feel so strongly about it that that there's that it's quite focused on in the work that you do at the university?
I guess one of the main things here is that missing out, basically. So if you don't want to miss out from the next sort of like advancements in technology, you sort of have to have an understanding of virtual production. Basically, the whole entertainment industry, films, media, game, they are merging together. And I think this is one of the biggest sort of like revolution in these industries. We got used to the fact that we just sit in a cinema and watch a nice story, come out of it, done. But lately, I'm pretty sure you've also seen some movies which were based on a game, Last of Us, right? And that's actually happening quite regularly. And now all these like walls between films and games are just disappearing. So if you actually want to work in the next 10, 15, 20 years in the film industry, you really need to make sure that you have a good understanding of the technology, of the different methods of filmmaking. Obviously, the base has to be there. Like you really need to understand what cinematography is. You need to understand what photography is, stuff like that. But if you will not have an understanding of how, let's say, Unreal Engine works, at least on a sort of like operational level, I think you're gonna have less options in the very near future.
Franchises are a big thing, right? But James Bond is likely to be franchised. Is about to be split off and splintered, right?
Not happy about that.
Right. Well, it sort of is what it is. You never know, right? Let's hope that they do a really good job and the lessons have been learned. But I guess, and to your point, there's Fallout, which was, I think, Netflix or Amazon, The Lord of the Rings, obviously, The Rings of Power, is it? And all of these things are being franchised as well, right? So you sort of, there's this, as you say, there's this sort of blurring of what else can be franchised in order to be able to capture people's attention. And if it's created in Unreal Engine to start off with, then sort of future proofing, I guess, is
absolutely
maybe
that's a good word, future proofing.
Future proofing.
That's very important. And it's not just about cross-disciplinary learning, but it's also like virtual production is also about could be about sustainability, for example. I think that's an important thing here. Could be, as I said, because in certain cases that's not the case. But I hope that productions will focus on the sustainability part more and more. It's also sort of like a way to express your creativity in a much more flexible way than before. Like basically changing lights, changing sets on set, again with a caveat. We all know that. I hope those know it who already worked in the virtual production. Cost efficiency, again, that's something what can be quite important in virtual production. So I think because of these reasons, we will definitely see an increase in virtual production projects. I'm not saying that it will replace green screen or traditional filmmaking. I don't think so. And I actually I firmly believe that it will not. But it will definitely create more opportunities for filmmakers and creative people to actually express their vision. And if you happen to be a sort of like a creative person with lots of ideas, and if you learn Unreal Engine or like any real-time solutions out there, well, there's
other solutions are available.
Yeah. And basically real-time technologies can provide you an absolutely amazing opportunity to make your vision come alive relatively easily and quickly before actually putting into the big sort of like production pipeline.
The interesting thing you touched upon absolutely that is like you can create something quite rapidly as well, right? So you can sort of tell a story, and that might just be a proof of concept as well, but it's a visual one rather than a presentation, or whether it's a deck, which is not particularly exciting. It also is never going to have to be all of the film as well. So, simple callbacks and headshots and all sorts of, it's a sort of a tool, I guess, as well. But I think you touched on a great point, is just having an understanding, right? It's like, that's the key thing. 9 times out of 10 is like sort of knowing a bit about what Unreal Engine or other 3D environments can do, right? And actually, that's important. We're joking, but there are other coming and emerging new tools, and having to know the difference about those and how they fit within your pipeline and what you're trying to achieve. Because the thing from the projects from Chaos or from Foundry, which are coming out, there's a technical choice there that may or may not be right for your production. Same with the LED walls versus green screen, right? Previs versus post, blah blah blah. It's just knowing it as well.
Sometimes
Right.
complicating as
And
well. And especially in these days, right? Like it's quite difficult to decide where you want to go, what you want to do, especially with AI, right?
Right.
We are also like, I thought that, okay, yeah, real time, cool. That's gonna be basically the sort of like Swiss Army knife for virtual production. And now we seem to have another contestant here just around the corner. So
Right.
yeah, it's very, very challenging to actually make a decision of like, okay, I'm gonna focus on this or that, because you can't focus on everything for sure.
No, that is too much. It really is too much. And to become a master of any, or become a craftsperson for any of that, it's really challenging, as sort of said a bit earlier on. Brilliant. Okay. So what's this VP gathering all about? Tell us a little bit more about that. What's going on?
Yeah, so basically, as I already mentioned, this is the Virtual Production Conference. I think it definitely started 5 years ago, because this is going to be the 5th annual Virtual Productions Gathering. And as I mentioned, that's how I actually got in touch with Buas, with Breda. I visited them. It was an absolutely fantastic, sort of like boutique conference. It's not like a mass event. We usually have like 150, 300 people every year. Usually it's a one-day conference, but this year it's going to be a 2 days conference. And I'm organizing it. And it's just around the corner. It's going to be on the 9th and 10th of April. So basically 4 more weeks to go. And I still have a lot to arrange, but that's a different story. And I'm quite happy that the team, because it's not just me, obviously, but the whole team of people working on this conference, we managed to secure quite a great speaker lineup. So, for example, we're going to have Catherine Brilhart from the US. We're going to have Adrian Weber, one of my good friends, and an absolutely fantastic VP supervisor. We're also going to have Eric Wolfie Wolford, again, a good friend of mine from the US, an absolutely fantastic and joyful and happy DOP. Just listening how passionate he is about virtual production is just mind blowing. So
Good.
Definitely looking forward to his talk as well, or presentation. And yeah, so quite a few leaders in the virtual productions industry. And as we also have our own VP stage, we're definitely going to have some live demonstrations. We're going to have chaos arena tests, and we're also going to have some scenes with Assimilate, with some AI background. Just basically trying to show the world, or show the participants what we can do with virtual production. And the most important thing is the mixer party sponsored by Chaos at the end of the second day, the 10th of April. I think we can all agree that one of the most important part of any festival is the mixer party. So
networking and talking about passionate stuff, right? So
right.
So there's 2 days. So what's the difference in the days?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first one, the 9th, which is a Wednesday, that's mainly focusing on the educational sector. So basically, people would, like presenters would mainly come from other educational institutions, explaining how they are using virtual productions, how they set up their own VP stage. We're also going to have a presenter from Epic talking about using Unreal Engine not just for gaming purposes, but for movies and films and all sorts of other interdisciplinary medias. And the second day, the 10th, the Thursday, is going to be focusing on the industry, basically. So that's the main differentiation point between the two days.
So on the first day, so you've got schools from all over Europe, all over the world, just in Holland?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's an international gathering. So we have, I think, more than 12 countries.
Wow.
People coming from more than 12 countries in Europe. We even have a university from the US who will send a participant, which was quite surprising.
That's pretty cool.
Great. Yeah, it's pretty cool. obviously lots of higher education institutions from the UK, Germany, France, obviously Netherlands, Denmark, the northern countries. So it's going to be a pretty international event.
And then industry days, who should attend those ones?
Well, obviously, if you are interested about virtual production, then you should definitely come. Well, the good thing is that as this is not going to be in a major sort of like capital city like Amsterdam, London, Barcelona, it's actually a much different sort of like, it's easy to get around. In 5 minutes you can get to the center of the city. It takes just like 10 minutes to walk from the center of the city to our university. No sort of like underground experiences. So yeah, so if you're interested in virtual production, you should definitely come. It's not an expensive event because fortunately, as a university, we are not really for profit. So the prices are really reasonable. And we really want this to be like a gathering with a soul. So
Gotcha.
it's not just about like, like listening to a speaker and then just going home. We set up the whole structure of the event in a way that people will have quite a few opportunities of just like mingling around and just like talking to each other. And as I said, not a mass event, most probably the first day, which is going to be a smaller day in terms of size, because that's going to be at the XR stage, the whole day of presentations. So we are expecting 150 people there, and for today we are expecting maximum 300 people. So
Oh, wow.
relatively,
That's a nice number.
it's just like manageable, but good enough.
But anyone who's interested in it, so from the film world, TV, content creation, producers, directors, DOPs,
Absolutely, because we
gaffers,
try to
anyone.
set up. We try to create a lineup which would be interesting for anyone and everyone in the virtual production space. Yeah, DOPs, directors, producers. As well as like producers, I was really paying attention on the producing part, obviously. But yeah, even if you are like an Unreal artist, you could potentially come to the educational day because of Epic, because of the other sort of like presentations as well.
It's not too difficult to travel to as well, right?
Actually, it's even easier to travel to Breda than to, in a way, Amsterdam. Well, not easier, but definitely cheaper, because we have quite a few sort of like smaller airports around. We have Eindhoven, we have Brussels around the corner, and from London you can just like hop on the train and come to Breda. We only need to sort of like change at Brussels. So
Got you.
It's really easy. It's actually easier than it.
And it's cheaper than Amsterdam, which is the most expensive hotel city in the
Absolutely.
entire universe ever at the moment. So where do people if they want to come and book their ticket, where do they go?
So they should go to vpgathering.com.
Yeah, that's
Really
easy.
easy.
We'll put some links in the bios. Thank you so much, Zoltan.
You too, Rob. Thanks again. Take it easy. Cheers.